The first thing you should know is that day guy versus night guy is not just about getting up early in the morning or staying up late at night. Instead, it's a fundamental way of two very different ways of looking at life itself.
Sometimes I just lay there and let it ring for another half hour before I get up.
Most people, hate waking up in the morning. I sleep until the last possible moment, which often requires multitasking in order to get to my job on time.
I stopped using my alarm clock and started using my cell phone as an alarm because it sounds different, and the sound of the alarm just made me angry when I woke up. I wanted to shoot something.
I never get enough
Just
sleep.
go and ask Jerry.
I stay up late at night because I'm night guy. Night guy wants to stay up late. What about getting up after 5 hours sleep? Oh, that's morning guy's problem. That's not my problem. I'm night guy. I stay up as late as I want. So you get up in the morning, the alarm, you're exhausted, groggy. Oh, I hate that night guy. See, night guy always screws morning guy. There's nothing morning guy can do.
It's brutal. I don't want to get up. I know since I go through the routine every day, I just do it, and I kind of get a burst of energy like after I get up. Then once I get into the classroom, I'm like so tired, really tired.
Sometimes I feel like I must be a vampire or something. I just cannot stand early morning sunlight shining in my eyes. I seek refuge in my shower.
What's it like? I don't know, everybody's quiet. We just kind of try to get through it. It's pretty early.
You aren't the one who had to walk into the boys'
Or maybe
bathroom,
ask Mr. Mackey.
after having to wake up early, there's no coffee in the teacher's lounge, and then you walk into the bathroom just to find a big Duke laying there in the urinal, like it's laughing at you.
What is my job? I won't say career, that's just a term day people concocted to make their existence more palpable. My job is teaching English to college students. I bribe the students with extra credit to be in this. But my passion in life is film. I decided to teach at the college level as a means of not having to live hand to mouth while getting my summers off to make films. This is my neighbor. He gets up every day at 4 a.m. He is day guy incarnate. He lives a productive, helpful, and extremely boring life. This is fun for him on the weekends. But my neighbor wasn't always like this.
Like healthcare, because I'm really big into like what you eat, so I'm thinking about maybe being a nutritionist or something like that. And I like cutting hair.
He was once my student's age, a time of life where all the world's options are open to you, from being a doctor to working at a beauty salon.
Oh my God. Well, one thing I would probably do is that this is very, very strange, but I was just thinking about it that I definitely want to get like a wolf pup.
When you're 20 years old, you can even dream that biggest dream of all, owning a wolf pup. But as you get older, you're expected to contribute to society. And what that really means is that you're expected to throw your dreams away, get a day job, and not leech off the rest of the community.
You saw me standing alone.
Jesus Christ!
Without a tree.
God! Fire!
Without a love of my
I'm burning up!
But maybe we shouldn't suppress our dreams. Maybe we should let the wolf out. from time to time. This film springs from a summer ago back. It was inspired by a sort of tale of two cities. You see, it was July, so some friends and I decided to take a road trip to Vegas. So now you're probably asking yourself, I didn't know Vegas looked like that. Well, that's because we decided to stop in Salt Lake City to visit an old friend who lived near the University of Utah for a few days. That's right, the home of the 2002 Winter Games. Yet, SLC can be a little odd.
I love this place. Salt Lake, shitty.
During my stay, I took in some sights of the high mountains that enclose Salt Lake City, which make for great skiing. But that's not why Brigham Young and the rest of the Mormons chose to settle here. So why then did 70 wagons, 93 horses, 143 men, 3 women, 2 children, and 19 cows decide to settle in this desert valley way up in the Rocky Mountains? Again, the Salt Lake City Valley isn't exactly flowing with milk and honey. It's a desert surrounded by high mountains. Everything in the valley has a weird vibe to it. Whether it be wedding couples getting pictures taken in the wasteland of the Great Salt Lake, or this house near the Capitol. Like, it seems normal at first, but everything just looks a little more crooked upon closer inspection. Whatever it may be, the Mormons chose to call it Home Sweet Home. And give them credit. It is a very beautiful city. These beautiful streams are found right near the Temple Square. I should know. Here's me getting kicked out of Temple Square a couple years ago, not realizing that the Mormons are super duper paranoid about how they are perceived, and therefore anyone coming into Temple Square with a professional looking camera and stating that he's here to make a documentary is quickly exiled. As you can plainly see, everything's about walls and protection for the Mormons. But why in heavens do they behave so strangely? And why are they so hell-bent on family?
So, where do you think our happiest memories come from?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's in the family.
I know, it came from the 80s, but it was free.
The family you grew up in, the family you're raising now, even if you're single. It's the family you hope to have someday. And it's interesting, you know, that all the evils in the world seem to be aimed at destroying the family, the one greatest source of happiness in the world.
Remember, you're talking about an area initially populated by 143 men, 3 women, 2 children, and let's not forget the 19 cows. The church leaders had to push family togetherness, or the Mormons wouldn't have survived.
So if you want real beer, you have 2 choices.
And don't come here if you want to drink alcohol.
You see, it's here where you can buy regular beer. There are all of 3 stores in Salt Lake City to buy it, and their hours suck. Oppression.
My friends and I learned this the hard way. To the Mormons, then, alcohol consumption equals loss of control, which equals breakdown of the family. So, you may wonder, why was I not kicked out for filming this time? Well, I played the role of a wolf in sheep's clothing, and boldly entered Temple Square, taking on the airs of being a visitor. With a small, consumer-looking camcorder, not a devilish documentary filmmaker. I know, handheld, I apologize, but I wasn't about to set up a tripod and call attention to myself. Some of this stuff is pretty out there.
Like our Father, and He's in heaven. He's our Heavenly Father. He's our dad up in heaven.
According to the leaders of the Mormon Church, young children are capable of understanding abstract concepts such as God, life, death, and the afterlife. The kids look cute, though, so they must be right. Or at least that's what the Latter-day Saints Church wants us to believe.
I don't know how you did it. It's just, you get it once you go to church and stuff. That's how I got it.
Yes, just listen to what the church tells you.
Follow the 10 Commandments and go to church.
So the temple gets rich and you get to enter into the kingdom of God. Sounds fair, doesn't it? I'm doing a big no-no here. I'm not supposed to be filming the missionaries as they give the tour, but I couldn't resist. Oh yeah, sorry for the handheld, but you're getting this spectacular acoustics presentation, so feel special and take a listen. But hey,
Let me ask you
being
a
a
question.
Mormon missionary isn't
What would
easy.
you say if someone offered you peace and happiness through all of eternity? Thank you.
Yes, it's all about family for the Mormons. But hey, isn't this film supposed to be about Night Guy versus Day Guy? Well, as I perused the city, I got to see just how different the images of SLC really were compared to most places I saw. Pioneers struggling to survive. That image dominates the landscape. In fact, one could say quite legitimately that Salt Lake City is Day Guy on steroids. Yet, just 6 hours south, you have its polar opposite.
Vegas! Vegas, baby! Vegas!
Which is where we were headed next. It's all there. Hard work, sacrifice for the good of the family, and why? To survive.
We did our part. We had to improve
In
our
tough
lives.
times, you give it all to the church.
Change certain things about our lives that,
Well, in accordance with what Christ taught.
and the step that I remember the most, the one that really, at the time, stuck with me, and that was, he said that we could be married by someone with the authority to marry us, not just till death do us part, but forever.
In Plato's dialogue, The Republic, Socrates demonstrates how the best way to understand the nature of justice was to compare the individual man with the polis. That's Greek for city. In many ways, then, we can understand Day Guy by comparing him to a city, like Salt Lake City. Day Guy is protective, hardworking, and family-oriented. However, as stated previously, everything's a little crooked upon closer inspection. And they definitely don't like outsiders. Look here, and we can see what Brigham Young saw when he first looked down upon this valley. He saw protective walls in the form of mountains ringing the valley. Here they were safe. Here they could survive. But the sun must eventually set, and then Night Guy comes out. My friends and I thanked our host, and then we drove off into the night. Our road trip had now entered into the month of August. Whereas Salt Lake City is all about rules and structure, Vegas is all about forgetting rules and living in the moment. Indeed, Vegas is a city where finding a clock is next to impossible. It's a city that aims to entice. But as Plato points out, all that entices also deceives. It's a mere 6-hour drive from Salt Lake City to Las Vegas. 6 hours that separate the day and night world.
Here's the first of the day, fellas.
Just ask Jack.
To old D.H. Lawrence. Indians.
Yes, Vegas is a city where the first of the day is always welcomed and encouraged to never end. Vegas aims to capture the imagination, as long as you got the money to burn. For those of you who have not been to Vegas, be aware that when people say Vegas, they mostly just mean the Las Vegas Strip, where all the big touristy hotels are conveniently located right next to each other. So convenient, in fact, that there are strategic bridges and elevators linking both sides of the Strip. Unlike Salt Lake City, Vegas was not founded by pioneers. Vegas, on the other hand, was founded by gangsters and those who wanted to swindle the masses out of their money in a legal way. So they decided to build a giant circus tent out in the middle of the desert and invite everyone into the tent, provided you left most of your money back in the casino. And that guy, of course, always loves going to the circus. It's his favorite pastime. Vegas entices by overloading your sense of reason. Everything moves so quickly.
Must be 18 years of age or older to attend.
It's almost like a sleight of hand trick that plays on your inner child's fascination with bright flashing lights. The most obvious and readily apparent differences between Salt Lake City and Vegas are the images around the cities. In Salt Lake City, we saw pioneer families struggling to survive. In Vegas, you see, well, mostly sex and money. And that guy is always looking for a party, and the party never ends in Vegas. But one only gets invited to the party, so the billboard tells us, if you've got the look. And this is something you most definitely won't see in Salt Lake City. But look at those guys playing poker at the tables. They're not even looking at her. Plato's 100% right when he states that all that entices also deceives. As with the Mormons, though, I don't want to be too hard on Vegas. It's a fun place to visit. Look. These people look like they're having a blast. As long as the champagne is flowing. In Greek mythology, Dionysus was the goddess of wine. That's right, wine had its own goddess.
The place is called Dionysus, and they're not kidding.
They never are.
You're welcome to come. And Dionyse, here.
But old Dionysus can pop up in the day too, provided there's alcohol, of course. Vegas, then, uses Dionysus to lure people into their casinos and keep the money flowing in. Again, Vegas was founded by gangsters looking for a legal way to steal money. More often than not, it's the young college-aged kids, my students, who flock to Dionysus like a moth to flame. And often these students end up making poor decisions.
But do be careful, Mr. Boone. Freedom is a drug, much like any other. Too much can be a very bad thing.
Well put. I don't think these college students have quite gotten that message yet. But when Dionysus has you under her spell, it's happy days. Look, Dionysus is waving for us to join her. Unfortunately, all summers have to come to an end. It was now late August, and I had to take on the shackles of being a day guy once again. This year, my classes would be starting at 7:45 a.m., That's earlier than high school, damn it. My night guy lifestyle was about to be seriously cramped. It was now September, and my shining summer was truly, and finally, at its end. Dark clouds were quickly gathering in the form of restrictions on my freedom. Now, there were merely arrows telling me where to go and what to do. The life of a university professor is a balance of unrestricted academic freedom and unbreakable attachment to responsibility. Your sons and daughters are shipped off to us for us to educate, and we take this situation rather seriously. This presents a problem, as most freshmen are much more interested in getting drunk at frat houses or house parties than in learning and book reading. So within the ivy walls then, classroom doors are closed and teacher meets student.
I'm 19.
Oh, you're younger.
I am.
I thought you were older.
No, I'm younger.
Although my students are young, I believe interviewing them on the differences between day people and night people could yield interesting results, as maybe their youthful perspective and fun-loving manner could show the way to the night guy perspective.
Look how cool I am right now. So cool.
Or maybe not. Maybe they could just show us old folks what we used to be like before we got real jobs.
It seems like all the sparks of inspiration happen to me at the worst moments. I'll be like thinking of great ideas at like 1 when everyone should be starting to wind down.
It's hard to be creative at 7:45 a.m., which is now the start of my day. I, like my student, find that creativity flows like a torrent the later in the evening.
I actually believe I work better at night. I don't know why. It's like my creativity, it comes to me a lot easier at night. I've tried in the daytime, it's nothing there. It's like a mental block. Definitely at night.
Indeed, my creative juices don't get the green light until at least twilight has eclipsed the day.
I do feel that I feel more creative at night, but I think that's when I have more free time, because when I get up and go somewhere, usually I get up, I get ready, and I go do my day's things. Typically, you set up everything, like school is in the day, your work is going to be during the day, so at night is when you have all of your free time. So I tend to feel more creative at night because that's when I have the time to sit there and free my mind of all my other things and just write, I guess.
Is it merely because I have more free time that I am more creative at night? Possibly, but I think it's more than that. I think there's a certain magic to the night sky that bleeds into my soul.
It goes a lot faster. I would always play my saxophone when I was in band in like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I would always practice at night because it sounded clearer to me. Like there wasn't really a wash of music. It was more like continuous. And it actually it had a better tone.
Are not concerts at night much more fun than during the day? Something at night just makes us want to let it all out. But eventually, all spells must be broken. Autumn was right around the corner. And Night Guy doesn't do so well in planning ahead. But Day Guy certainly knows it's time to prepare for winter. October always brings with her a major turn in weather and in spirit. For me, it's the saddest of all months. It's hard for me to see the green life of summer turn to brown and then die away. Teaching-wise, everything was fine, yet I felt the restrictions of the day world turn my soul brittle.
There's a lot of factors in that. Let's see. I have to think about it. Well, of course, I love the sun. Like, I was originally from Texas, so like I was really always outside. Loved it. So being outside was a big deal to me, and just the sunlight really affects me. So when I'm in the dark, sometimes I get kind of sad, kind of lonesome. No, I'm kidding. I don't mind the dark all that much, but it's just not as. I just don't understand night people. Honestly, are you a night person?
A little bit, kind of.
Strange. I just don't understand like how they can like just, I don't know, be at night, like stay up until like 3 o'clock in the morning. I just don't understand that. I've tried it. Never works for me. I tried twice, staying up till 5 a.m. I woke up the next day and I woke up at 7 a.m. and I just could not take it. I was like, I can't do this.
Arubians or...
Yeah, he's at his rehearsal. He's at his first rehearsal. I don't know what they're doing because I've never been to one before, but I bet they're just, introducing themselves to each other. You know, it's going to be nice to meet some of these new folks because we don't socialize with the creative types. You know, we got our Scrabble club and stuff, and, and other people with babies.
Having babies, playing follow the leader, that's day guy for ya.
I pretty much didn't answer to anyone, answered to myself. I partied a lot, traveled a lot, seen a lot of things, lived in a lot of different places, different environments. All that was a very big learning experience for me.
It's interesting to hear former night people's stories and why they converted to the day world.
I became very lonely. It just wasn't, it came back to finally I fell in love with somebody and realized that that's what I wanted.
Don't get me wrong though, having kids can be a blast.
Why? Because that's just usually how the routine goes. You get married, you have kids, you live the perfect life.
Happy, productive life. College, job, family. College, job, family. And one day, if you're really lucky, you'll be standing here yelling at a teenager of your own.
Well, once you graduate from college, you're going to end up looking for a career. And hopefully you'll find one right away. And once you have that career, you'll work it until you're probably about 55. Then you're living easy on the retirement from the wages that you made while you were an accountant. So,
to me, that sort of structured life plan is very scary.
Then I guess you die. Yeah.
Indeed. Happy Halloween. The days were now getting very short, but the semester was chugging along. In September, I had learned that night people tend to be more creative, and in October, I learned that day people often fall into the structure trap of college, job, marriage, kids. I was now at the point where I wanted to explore the key personality differences between day people and night people in hopes that in doing so, I might bring some tranquility to this headache of a semester.
I'm more of a night person generally because I can get more stuff done in the evening. People just kind of leave me alone, and I'll be working on the computer, and time will just kind of pass more quickly. And
before I know it, it'll be like 2 a.m. And that's kind of what makes I'm not really a night person by choice. I just become more I kind of get more into the stuff that I'm doing at night, and it kind of takes over my life a little bit.
I found that time slips away from me as well at night, but I think that the passage of time has to do with the fact that I am much more attuned to what I'm doing at night. Focus comes much more easily at night.
I don't know, I'm more like lively and awake, and when nighttime comes around, I'm less productive and tired and not as motivated to do as much. So I'm more lively throughout the day.
To my surprise, a lot of my young students said they were day people. I thought only old fogies got up in the morning.
Stop them, son, but the seniors get up so early in the morning. They get everything done before everyone else is even awake.
They're saying something about taking over the whole country.
Yes. And now seeing how early they get up, I don't see how anyone can stop them. Wait a minute. You boys! You get up almost as early as they do. You can fight them.
No, come on, Dad. Can't you guys do it?
No, son, we like to sleep in.
If I could just stay up as late as I wanted, I'd probably stay up till about 6 or 7 and then just sleep most of the day and then get up around 4 or 5.
I'd like to stay up till 6 a.m. too. However, my brain would be on fire when class started at 7:45 a.m.
I don't know. I like how it is outside. It's really peaceful. Not a lot of people are out yet. That's usually when I go running and everything. And I love going running early in the morning because, like I said, it's so quiet and, you know, people are just getting up. And
Can former night people ever become day people?
I've become something of a morning man.
Actually, I think anybody would notice if you just stop and notice. People are a lot crankier in the morning. I tend often to notice that a lot of people are cranky. They're moody because they're tired.
A night guy can try to be a day guy, but deep down it comes down to how much structure you're willing to have in your life.
It just basically makes me want to get up immediately and start going. Sometimes I want to sit there and stop, but I know I have to get up because I know I have work to do and I need to complete it. And procrastinating isn't going to be good and able to help me accomplish my goals.
Structure does indeed help one to complete goals, but does it allow one to appreciate life? I think the jury's still out on that one.
Relax, day people. Just relax. Just take a day off and go out and do something fun. Don't just run around all the time trying to get everything done. That's my advice.
The change from fall to winter got me thinking about how we insert structure into our lives. For instance, Christmas was fast approaching, and it seemed as though I was supposed to feel a certain joy in the air. We call this time of year December, and during this time of year, we are supposed to feel happy about family, friends, and presents. But I don't want to feel like that. Indeed, Night Guy doesn't like anyone telling him what to do and when to do it.
Oh my gosh, it is horrible. I play out every scenario in my head of like the possibility of skipping for the day. Like what can I get away with today? Like how important is the upcoming classes? And then I'll wait in bed for another maybe 15 minutes after deciding, and then I'll drag myself out and get through it.
Because Night Guy likes to shirk responsibility, he often puts himself out in the cold in relation to the day world.
Like they always had like some sort of guidelines for me. They had like when I reached, I think it was like 16 or 14, whatever, I had so many rules. I had to do so many things, and I had to do them in a certain way. Otherwise, it wouldn't be really tolerated.
Rules are like death, Night Guy.
Too constrictive. I can't even fold my arms.
Because, one, I live in Milwaukee, so it's a little bit further away. Two, that definitely don't need to set up for 1 o'clock, though, if you live in Milwaukee. So definitely laziness. I mean, so that I have enough time to just do whatever I want in the morning when I wake up. I don't have to just rush out the door to get to my class. And then I'm allowed to stay up at night and not have those restrictions, which you said, on me.
Indeed, I believe one of the primary reasons I hate getting up is that I view being forced to do so as a restriction on how I want to live.
Oh man, how am I gonna raise my kids? I don't know, maybe follow most of the same rules that my dad implied on me, so that I know that they can actually succeed in their future.
Parents ingrain rules and restrictions on their kids to help them succeed in the day world. But what if night people ran the world? I think we'd be living a lot more laid-back lifestyle if that were the case.
I think at night I'm able to do whatever I want. I can just sit there and do nothing for as long as I want to, and then I can go to sleep.
Day Guy would rebut me by saying, "That's nonsense. Getting up early in the morning for work is simply the way of the world. Get used to it."
They've said stuff like, that I'm lazy, or that, like, I don't have motivation, or, like, I just need to go and do more with my day, things like that.
What is it like to be Night Guy, you may ask? Well, the spirit of Night Guy is a lot like these skiers, always wanting to be as free as a bird and to soar amongst the clouds without a worry in the world. Day Guy likes his structure, however, and right now he says we should all shut up and be merry. It was now the coldest month of the year. January is my second least favorite because it marks the beginning of a new year, and because I can't get any biking done, which restricts my freedom. That got me thinking, what would a world of truly no restrictions be like? Suppose, for instance, you had all the money in the world.
With a mass amount of wealth, I would literally do nothing. I would hang out with friends, and I would eat. I would sleep for a long time. Unfortunately, I mean, like, it's not a good set of ambitions, but that's, with a lot of money, that's really all I really want to do.
What would I do with unlimited money? Well, I would have to admit that I would probably have a take it a bit too easy policy as well. I definitely wouldn't get as much done.
If I had all the money in the world, I don't know if I'd do anything. I wouldn't get nothing ever accomplished.
In December, all of my Night Guy students told me they wished they could lay in bed all day and have no restrictions whatsoever. They wanted to live a life where they could do whatever they wanted all day long, but how much productivity would be accomplished?
Wait, what?
Well, the question is, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do?
Yeah, if I was famous, I'd pretty much do whatever I wanted and go party on the weekdays.
Somehow, I don't think that's the answer her parents would like, but then again, they're young.
I'm 19.
Partying during the weekdays seems like a good idea when you're young, but eventually everything gets an old, stale taste to it.
Money? Wow. I would definitely not have a job then. Probably consist of working out, playing video games, and sports.
I was actually sad to hear such answers, but I believe they were being truthful. When I was their age, my answer to the question was obvious. I would use that money to self-finance my films and become the next Fellini. I would have hoped that instead of, I would just play sports, my student would have said, I would train to become a pro ball player. I would always dream of striving to be number one. Or maybe I would climb the highest mountains. Or visit exotic locales in every country. I would buy a boat and set sail across the world, getting into adventures at every port. I would not be a plain old lazy night guy like this guy. My life of no restrictions would be a life of soaring above and beyond, to new heights yet unseen.
I probably would just bum around the house or go shopping and spend the money. Probably wouldn't go to school. I don't know.
We all think that, if only our lives could be an endless summer of no responsibilities, all would be well.
Well, a world without responsibilities is just insane. You know, there'd be no order. People would just do whatever they wanted. You have to have responsibilities. You have to do stuff for this world to work, you know?
January always brings cold sun rays of reason with her. January indeed marks the beginning of the year. The time where, just like this water, we gotta get moving along to the start of the spring semester and back to getting up at 7:45 a.m. for class. The last month of winter brings out mixed emotions in me. February is a depressingly dirty month as the soot from car emissions turns the white snowbanks gray. On the other hand, it's fun to watch winter in the throes of death. By the end of the month, you even start to see a little green poking out.
I just really I don't know, I just don't, if I don't get my sleep, I'm just not a very happy person, so.
Losing sleep because you have to get up for work in the morning is a lot like this frozen time of year. It's something everyone has to endure.
I probably would have to be the one to change because the day people, it feels like there's a lot more of them out in the world, and the world's kind of made more for them to, job-wise and stuff like that, so.
If you want food in your stomach, there are only two options: fish it out of the lake or buy it. Most of us choose option 2. That means getting a job, which will likely start early in the morning.
Being stuck in the same town your whole life and, just being stuck in your town your whole life and then coming back from work 9 to 5 every day, come back and you're just not happy with it at all. And you just repetitively do everything every single day. You do the same thing. You go to work, get up, eat dinner with your kids, your family, which isn't a bad thing, but just the repetitiveness of it every day because once you work, that's it, that's your career, and you're gonna have to do it every day, so you have to like it.
The coffee, it stinks. It tastes like
He's right, you better like it.
If they don't give you a headache, you must be dead. So let's arrange the funeral. You better get out of here. I'm telling you. You're not telling me nothing. I'm telling you. Why? I ask myself, why have I put up with you? I can't imagine. But I know. It's fear, yellow freaking fear. I've been too chicken shit afraid to live my life, so I sold it to you for $300 freaking dollars. Oh, wait!
You go to work, you come home. You know, it's a stupid-ass routine that everyone has, you know? You gotta do something, you know?
Again, if you want food, you catch it yourself, like this industrious spider. Or you get a job. But jobs can often be scary too. What else scares my students?
Dropping out of school and still living at my parents' house.
Actually, I'm taking a bit of a break from Princeton, so.
You dropping out, huh?
It seems a lot of them are afraid of dropping out of school and ending up in a dead-end job.
Honestly, I'd have to say working at a place like Quad Graphics forever, just until the day I retire. From now till the day I retire, I don't think I could do that. I mean, that would be, I guess I'd be making ends meet and I'd be making the money, but I don't know if I could say I enjoy my life.
If you really stop to think about it, most people don't like their jobs. But if most of your waking life is spent at that job, that means most people don't like their life.
Because that's what he went to school for, and he makes a lot of money, so he just thinks he has to stick it out until he retires. But he's not happy with it.
Her dad isn't happy because he chose the wrong path. He let the day guy part of him choose his vocation. Now, which path are my students going to take?
I don't know. I don't know.
We want the important decisions in life to be like this pond, clear enough that we can see the bottom with little effort. But life's just not like that.
I want to be a vet assistant.
A vet assistant isn't exactly a lucrative career, money-wise.
I feel like when I talk to them, like they definitely know how you're feeling. So I don't know, they're like my best friends.
Night guy often lets his emotions decide, and I think when you're deciding on your career, you should definitely follow your heart.
I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cool to be like a agent, something like that for like Hollywood or something like that. I think I could do that. I have the personality to.
Now
Day guy follows his head and often ends up bored.
I go to work, I have a job, I have a social security card, and my life is very ordinary, very boring, which is good because it's solid.
Well, I'd like to obviously graduate from college, have a good job, maybe be married, maybe having a kid or something. I don't know. Just a typical life.
The end of February is an in-between time for nature, much like the lives of my students. Let's hope they make the right decision. While watching the snows of winter melt away in March, I realized life doesn't begin in the womb or even in conception. Life begins when things start to move, and this starts a chain reaction that ultimately yields things such as human birth. Day guy accepts this chain reaction of how one's life should be, but where did Day guy learn to think like this? Quite naturally, from his parents. I then wondered what my students thought of their Day guy parents.
That's a tough question. I love my parents, but that's what everyone says. I don't think I would, like, just because, like, my father works a lot and then my mom is, like, she stays at home and stuff. Probably not. I just don't, like, know how to, like, compare myself to them.
Quite typical, I suppose.
Most young people care little for their parents' structured lifestyles.
Nice house. There's not that much to say about them, really.
What did they do?
The usual.
And that means?
The usual things their type of people do.
My entire life path has been set so that I do not end up like my parents. I have learned from my siblings' mistakes and my parents' mistakes and hope to never end up like either of them.
But what about my students who are already parents?
It's good. It's different. It's definitely something I didn't think I'd get into, but I don't see myself living any other way. It's great. It's rewarding to be a parent.
I don't know if I totally buy that answer. Indeed, kids can be pleasant as a summer's day, but does having kids pretty much end Night Guy's existence? Or is there life after kids?
I'd just much rather be having fun with friends rather than having to stay at home with a kid. I mean, I love him, but sometimes you just want to get away from it and just kind of have your own life.
But maybe having kids isn't always so pleasant.
Some point, but not for a while. Maybe when I'm 40.
I'm with him. But for me, it'll probably be closer to 50.
Well, they're not happy, my dad's happy, with us, but they're not really happy with each other. They have relationship problems.
I don't know, I think they just jumped to marriage too quickly.
I don't know, because I just feel like everything that they worked so hard for is now, they don't have anything to show for it, because now their lives are completely worse than when they were together, so I definitely don't want to be like them.
What do you mean by end up like my parents?
Again, according to the day guy philosophy, you gotta follow a certain path. But is that always such a good idea?
Is my mom happy? I don't think so, because all she does is work and then comes home and does the same thing every day.
My dad is, he's pretty happy. My mom seems real happy too. My dad's more happy. I don't know. He didn't have anything he did when he was younger, because they weren't really, he wasn't financially blessed. So now that he has everything he has, a nice house in the suburbs, compared to he used to, not live in a very good area in Milwaukee. He's just happy. Sometimes I'll catch him staring out the window. He's just he's just super happy. He's can't you believe we live in this beautiful area? Isn't it awesome? And I'm just well, I mean, yeah, I guess. It's cool.
If you start with nothing, then the middle class lifestyle must indeed seem like a dream achieved. But the night guy part of me detests this sort of lifestyle. I mean, is this all there is?
I would come out from behind the stage.
Showmen like John Waters certainly don't think so.
The kids never saw you, and they see this man come out with the dragon puppet and make each one of the kids stick out their hand, and I'd bite it for good luck. 90% of the audience, they loved it. The other 10% of the children had nervous breakdowns. They were the cowards. They're the ones that still leave up the street from their parents and have boring jobs and reach their peak in high school.
I just can't picture it. I can't see me just sitting around every night, just watching TV, maybe going to my kids' games, and that's the excitement of the week is hey, my kid's got a basketball game,
But for a lot of depressed day guys, the only way they can find happiness is through such activities.
Because a lot of parents try to mold their children into something that they want them to be. And I think, when they're little, they don't really realize that. But when they get older, though, that's when they start having problems with them because they're not able to be their own person.
Indeed, I find these day guy dads are somehow trying to bring back that sense of freedom kids naturally possess into their own lives. But they chose their suburban tombs, and now they have to accept the blandness that comes with it.
It puts food on the table and a roof over our heads for me and my sister.
When you have kids, it ultimately comes down to that. You gotta feed and shelter them. This means you gotta get a job to support them. And this means loss of the freedom night guy so cherishes.
I think starting a family would be a good thing, an enjoyable experience. Never really thought about why I thought that way, but
is there a way then that you can have kids and still retain some night guy status?
Then I show them a good time. I mean, don't go overboard and flood them with everything you can do in life right away, but ease them in and then be a part of that. Don't just watch them have a good time. You can also join them.
Well, that sounds like a reasonable answer. Maybe a harmonious chord can be found in the twilight in between the day and night worlds. Not only is the weather vastly improved in April, so are my spirits. Why, you may ask? Well, by this time of year, the end of the semester and the end of my day guy status is finally in sight. Plus, there's pretty flowers. But the absolute best part of April is that I have almost 2 weeks off for spring break. Well, not that kind of spring break. At this point in my life, I prefer a little more culture, so I flew to Europe. Now, one of the main reasons I wanted to go to Europe for spring break was to visit my friend Dan from college. Dan and I met each other in a class called Contemporary Philosophy, in which I got an A and he only got a B+. And I think he still harbors resentment over that. But now, 10 years later, Dan lives in Zurich and I live in Milwaukee. Yeah, laugh it up. Being a day guy, however, Dan's always the first to crash when we go out for drinks at night.
Can't see straight anymore. I think I'm going on automatic pilot. Oh, boy.
At midnight, I'm starting to get tired, so usually, most nights. So I'm ready for bed at midnight.
By the way, I shot this interview with Dan on his rooftop in downtown Zurich, so please, pardon the wind.
Depends on the day, but I travel most days for work. So I have to go visit a customer who will be making any sort of industrial type thing, different products, and usually they use some kind of adhesive and I have to help them fix whatever they're doing.
Yeah, Dan's job landed him in Europe. Lucky bastard. But I must confess that Dan is a very hard worker. Which is kind of funny because, like most Americans, my initial impression of Europe was that everyone disliked working too much. Indeed, take any sunny afternoon and most people will be outside sitting on a dock or at a cafe. The thing you gotta remember is that Europe's a much older culture, stretching back hundreds of years to the days of kings and castles. Our ways are not their ways, and vice versa. Europe can be a very peaceful, relaxing place. But it's also a place where day guy would be antsy, I think.
It's pretty cool. You get to see a lot of different places and how a lot of different things are made. So that's why I like my particular job.
Who wouldn't want to be seeing places like these? But what price does Dan pay to live over here?
Yeah, I would say, at least once a week you get kind of stressed out. Yeah, more than once a week. Probably once a day you get stressed out at work.
Relax. This weekend is strictly for fun.
Yeah, I'm on vacation, but Dan actually lives and works over here.
You know the old saying. What old saying? All work, no play. Makes for a dull life.
The first thing I noticed about Europe was that everything was miniaturized, and that some cars were even toy-like. I also noticed that Europe can be stressful if you have to live here on a daily basis. I mean, for one, navigating European cities in a car, no matter how tiny, can quickly frustrate even the most patient souls. I'll let the rest of this image speak for itself.
Well, I wanted to move here because I had traveled here for work and for vacation. So I was interested in moving here because I was interested in the culture, learning about different people, the way different people do things differently. And then so I started looking for jobs, and my wife got a job here, and that was basically it. We were able to move.
Unfortunately, Dan's wife didn't have time for an interview as she was at work.
She works long days. She goes into the office at like 8:30, something like this, 9 o'clock. Then some days, depends on how busy she is. If she's working on a project like she is now, she can stay there till 8, 9 o'clock. Sometimes if it's right before a project, she'll have to stay all night to finish that project.
I was surprised to learn that some companies in Europe work their employees for 12 hours a day. Even so, I noticed Dan's place was extremely neat and tidy.
I think my parents were more about like just if you work hard, and you should be working. I think they tried to instill like a real work ethic into me.
Well, he certainly works harder than I do. At least at keeping his bathroom clean. I mean, sheesh. I guess when you make the big bucks, you can afford a rooftop view of downtown Zurich. But what's it like being an American living in Europe?
You're blowing it way.
I'd feel a little like
Don't take
this.
it so seriously. Those red ants were bad news. They weren't any good for anybody.
I was trying to convince them to look at Americans in a new way. And then in one stupid move, you confirmed their worst assumptions.
I did not confirm their worst assumptions. I am their worst assumption.
Indeed, some of Europe struck me as a little too laid back. And that's coming from a self-proclaimed night guy. It seemed to me that everyone in Europe was in a big hurry to get home from work and enjoy their time off. Or maybe they just wanted to get home to feed their kitties. When I saw these great wonders of Europe, I kept asking myself, does one ever get used to such images? Like Day Guy gets used to his everyday work world? Or do these images kind of sink into the soul of the populace, transforming how they view day-to-day life?
I mean, 50% of the time, there's something that's pressing to get done, probably. That's anything from doing laundry to some kind of big project you're doing at work.
Yet, how much of all this culture can a day guy really appreciate? I mean, in order to really appreciate it, it seems like you gotta have a lot of time off. So, what would Dan do with all the money in the world?
Oh, I think I would travel a lot still, even though it wouldn't be necessarily work-related. I'd go a lot of places. Probably, I don't know. It's a good question. Probably still involves some kind of work.
There you go. Day guy is addicted to work. Even a vacation must be used to its most effectiveness. So I asked Dan what he thought the biggest drawback to living over here was.
I would say the hours of doing business. So being able to go to the grocery store at midnight or whenever you want and get food whenever you want or buy something whenever you want. That's the tough part about living in Europe is everything's closed 90% of the time. You want to get it.
Well, I don't think the Europeans are about to change to accommodate midnight Taco Bell cravings. But it's very costly to live over here, and Dan's at his job over 50 hours a week.
How many times have I called in sick? It's not really like that. It's like, I don't look at it as like a sick day. It's a pretty flexible job. So if I'm too sick to work, then I don't go to work. I've only been sick maybe twice in the past couple of years where I couldn't actually work.
That, or Dan could only afford to be sick twice in the last couple of years. He wouldn't even tell me how much he pays in rent, as Zurich is one of the most expensive cities in the world. On the plus side, though, he gets to experience the culture firsthand.
Tomorrow I'll probably get up pretty early because it's a work day tomorrow. So I'll probably get up at 6:30, something like that.
That is, when he's not slaving away at work. The night guy part of me still wouldn't trade the time off I get for all these fantastic sights, though.
just, maybe if you could work a little bit less, I think that's always better if you could work like a half week or have some kind of cushy like professor job where you only have to work like an hour or something like that a week. That would be nice, but...
Well, my spring break time in Europe certainly was nice, but I had a flight to catch. It was hard to say goodbye to all this, but alas, the semester's not quite over. Damn, I gotta get home. I gotta set my alarm. I got class at 7:45 a.m. tomorrow. Shit, I'm day guy yet again. It was finally May, and my 9-month imprisonment was nearly over. I had learned much about the day guy perspective from my friend Dan in Europe. To get the night guy perspective, then, I visited my bartender friend Rick. Rick and I have been friends since kindergarten, but after high school I thought it reasonable to go to college, whereas Rick chose Dionysus's promise of an endless summer. Yes, Rick's apartment isn't very nice, but Rick is very content with what he has. What more does one need in life than a PlayStation 3? Indeed, Rick is a unique soul. And when something catches his fancy, he immediately tries to mimic it.
Break out some of these nuts. Oh, in case you didn't notice, I have a tripod grill I brought along with me. These things are really nice. You can adjust the height to where you want it. And I don't know if you ever tried this, but put a little beef jerky on there. Gives it a nice smoky taste.
Rick is actually one of the most genuinely happy people I know.
Look at it, it's like one of these old-time it sucks. It's like one of these ancient things up there, and I hate the shower. It's the worst part of this fucking place, man. This fucking water ends up spraying all over the place.
This fish tank keeps it pretty bright in here, actually. You should have seen it before I actually had those lights. It's probably pretty dark in here. But for me, I've always liked things dimly lit. I don't like it overly bright. I just don't. Just like at work, I like to keep the lights dimmed down.
He's always having fun. I really envy that.
I guess you could say it's a job where you can have a lot of fun and also get paid very well for doing it.
We've got a good crowd down here. Should have been here while all the women were in here. As you said, it should have been down here while the women were in here, but it's still a good crowd. We're having a lot of fun down here. Being called down here for a dice game. Sure.
There's always something new. There's always new people coming in. It's not, let's just say that no 2 days or 2 nights on the job are the same.
I think that's the essence of the night guy spirit. A rejection of structure and enjoyment in spontaneity. Beyond the fact that we're both night people, Rick and I both greatly appreciate nature.
Here though, look at this stuff. You got plenty of places to put your hands, and this is a fun climb. Just gotta take your time. Make sure every handhold and foothold is secure. And here, that's gonna hold me pretty well.
Rick actually revels in the lack of structure.
was fun.
Titles of my favorite films. Oh, we have one actually right here. Oh. One of my all-time favorites here is with starring Kurt Russell, Big Trouble in Little China.
Like I told my last
Again,
wife,
Rick likes to mimic
honey,
things
I
he
never
sees.
drive faster
You gotta
than I
love it
can
though,
see.
at least in
Besides
small
that, it's
doses.
on the reflexes.
Plays good old Jack Burton in this movie.
You just stare that big sucker right back in the eye, and you remember what old Jack Burton always says at a time like that. Have you paid your dues, Jack? Yes, sir, the check is in the mail.
Beyond rock climbing, bartending, and playing Man vs. Wild, Rick also spent almost a year composing a new age music album entitled The Undying Trials. I purchased a copy and he was kind enough to autograph it for me.
Well, I guess you could take my parents, I guess, for example. Ever since I was a little boy, my parents were always very strict on getting me to bed early, 8, 9 o'clock, which was very early for me. And there's just something about staying up at night when other people are sleeping, there's just something fascinating. I don't know, I can't really describe it. But I remember as a kid, my parents would generally go to sleep about 10 o'clock, 10 p.m., and they would sleep upstairs. So when they went upstairs, I would, as soon as they went to bed, I would turn the lights on, and then I would turn my TV down really low, play video games or read, stuff like that. But I've always enjoyed being up during the nighttime for some reason.
As you can see, not a whole lot has changed since childhood in Rick's attitude toward the night lifestyle.
I didn't like it. I mean, it's just something about, I just never wanted to go to bed at night. I've always wanted to stay up as late as I wanted to and not have to worry about getting up for something.
This is the domain of someone who makes his own rules and cares little for the judgment of the masses.
I think secretly a lot of these people would, because a lot of the fun things happen at night when people go out to clubs, parties, stuff like that. I'm sure a lot of people would like to change. I'm sure a lot of people don't like getting up in the morning.
Right now it is eerily quiet. The wind's not blowing. Kind of creepy.
When the time is right, I'll know. I guess there's still things that I feel I need to accomplish and get done before I settle down and have that family life. One of those places just had a bunch of swords and weapons, stuff like that, and I've always liked stuff like this. You can see right here, nice sword, and I keep this by my bedside for security purposes. In case anybody does break in, I have something to grab. Some people have baseball bats by their doors. I have a sword. Yep. I've always been a nature lover, you could say, and I think that I think it's just an amazing thing to be able to have basically a mini reef from the ocean that's so far away from the ocean. It's just fascinating to me. Well, I guess right now I don't have that inward desire to have children right now. You know what I mean? I don't have that right now. So, and I've always been big into, like I said, nature. And, I don't know, it's very fulfilling. I wouldn't say that, it could ever replace having that, You know, because right now I don't have the desire to have children. So it's never a good thing. It's you almost feel like you failed the fish because you failed to provide it with you know, its natural environment that it's used to, and you know, it's a sad thing, and that's why, you know, I need to be patient. You know, I'm sure I'd love to throw some fish in there right now, but time's not right for it yet. Hold on.
Hey, let me get some more water here.
The royal flushing, it's kind of a ritual that I do. You know, when a fish has died, I take it out with the net, wrap it up in some toilet paper, and then you know, send him on his way down the toilet to the afterlife. Biggest accomplishment so far in my life. Oh, there's so many.
The first thing I did after my interview with Rick was to quickly go home and clean my apartment. The summer was finally here. Nothing but blue skies, fun at the beach, and no more getting up early. One day, while I was out biking, I rode past a graveyard, and what I was intrigued by was that many of the last names on the gravestones were the last names of my classmates in elementary, middle, and high school. This got me wondering, whatever happened to the old gang? So I went on to the old Facebook to get a good chuckle and to see how they were doing. When I spotted a friend I had not seen in a long time living in NYC. That's right, Shelly Zander. Shelly had actually dated Dan, who now lives in Europe. That's Day Guy Dan.
Chapter 1. He was as tough and romantic as the city he loved. Behind his black-rimmed glasses was the coiled sexual power of a jungle cat.
Ah, yes, New York.
New York was his town, and it always would be.
In comparison to driving to Salt Lake City and Vegas, however, the drive in New York is a piece of cake. It's about a 15-hour drive. Again, piece of cake. New York is without a doubt the most unique city in the United States. Why so unique? Well, New York is a juxtaposition of sorts between the free-spirited world of Night Guy and the structured business world of Day Guy. The images of New York are the hustle and bustle of a crowded street at 5 p.m. rush hour. But there are also images of tourists chilling out from their structured day world lifestyles. And certainly one place to find images of New York is Times Square. Times Square, like Vegas, seems almost like a shock to the senses. It all goes by so fast that you can hardly believe it has an effect on you. But these images certainly do affect us greatly. So what are they saying? They are saying, bye, 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 and F you if you get in my way. The Day Guy aspect of New York cares little for stopping to smell the flowers. And the Night Guy aspect of New York can't wait to get you liquored up. But a lot of New York's nightlife is fused with culture. In many ways, then, New York is culture fused with capitalism. And in both instances, things often get pushed to the edge of good taste. This is the city where Night Guy comes to ask Day Guy for a loan to finance his poetic dreams. But when dealing with Day Guy, Night Guy's gotta learn how to take a punch. Indeed, New York is the headquarters for the corporate world. That provides Night Guy a playground to be creative. It's structured businessmen and free-playing artists. This is a city where the day world isn't afraid to descend into the night. Because these Night Guys, if they know what they're doing, can actually make you a few bucks. Indeed, could Broadway exist anywhere else in the US besides New York City? And why is it that plays are almost always seen at night? Well, all those nighttime plays are financed by the day world. But there's another side to New York's images too. A gritty, tough-edge side. This is a city where garbage and grime literally litter the streets. This is a city where merely going to the video store can require several subway changes. This is a city that doesn't wait for anyone or anything. And if you miss your ride, be prepared to wait. And wait, and wait, and wait. And then your train arrives and it's go, go, go. A lot of time, life in New York can seem like you're running in circles. Indeed, Day Guy even feels the compulsion to talk while he walks. And eat while he talks. Because every minute counts when money is to be made. Yes, New York is Day Guy. But New York is also Night Guy who appreciates the arts. New York, then, has achieved a sort of balance between the day and night worlds. One of New York's greatest artists, Andy Warhol, learned this lesson the hard way.
There was a certain kind of intensity to the living of various people associated with the Warhol factory, but I personally tended to live a kind of life of moderation of sorts. Perhaps that's why I'm here talking now.
In Greek mythology, the Titan Atlas held the world on his shoulders. The 20th century philosopher Bertrand Russell believed that the ancient Greek civilization achieved all of its greatness precisely because it embraced both rationality and artistic endeavors to a high degree. In many ways, then, New York embodies ancient Greek civilization. As New York embraces both ways of looking at the world, thus, a harmonious balance is achieved. The day world and night world living in blissful coexistence. Night Guy likes to play the game of chilling out and relaxing. And Day Guy likes to play the game of reason and balance. The most famous of ancient Greek philosophers was Socrates. To Socrates, then, the most important question of all is, what's the best sort of life to live? I had now spent time in the Night Guy city of Vegas, the Day Guy city of Salt Lake City, and the balanced city of New York. And while there were positive and negative aspects to all these places, only one had a film crew. To answer Socrates then, if I could pick any of those cities to live in, I would most definitely choose the balanced city of New York. To understand the man, you must first understand the city in which he chooses to live. Hopefully, my students watching this are carefully getting this all down. The lesson: don't be day guy and run through life unaware. And don't be night guy to the extreme, otherwise you're gonna burn out too quickly. Be balanced guy, who is both an adult and yet unafraid to be a kid. Seeing Shelley was great, but I had had my share of the Big Apple. School, and getting up early, was still a long ways off though. So I had to decide if I was a man of action or of mere words. I decided I would spend the rest of my summer as balanced guy who gets up at, 9, let's say?
I'm also looking for a girl to star in my musical.
But then Dionysus whispers in my ear,
It's a juicy part for a method actress.
well, better change that to 10 a.m. Yeah, that works.